Part 5. Fringe Artists in the Entertainment Industry. Author, Chizuda Xiaomao. Chapter 41. Chapter 41. I will always miss my brother. No title, just remember my brother. The temperature suddenly dropped a lot in the late autumn morning, and an autumn rain late at night completely took away the end of summer. The alarm clock beside the bed fell to the floor at some point, and it was ringing hard as it tried its best to do its duty. Chen Lian turned over in his sleep, groped with his slender arms twice on the ground, grabbed the alarm clock, and turned it off. It took 2 minutes for Chen Lian to regain consciousness. He pushed Mr. Zhou, who was still sleeping, and asked, "Are you going to the set today?" "I won't go." Mr. Zhou replied in a daze, but there was no movement again. Chen Lian stretched and got up from the bed. "Morning." Chen Lian opened the door and saw Zhang Guorong coming out on the opposite side. Zhang Guorong looked at Chen Lian's dark circles energetically and couldn't help but ask, "Why are you so lethargic? The dark circles under your eyes are so heavy." Chen Lian couldn't help but yawned, and then slowly said, "The more decent explanation is that I didn't sleep well, but the real situation is that I overindulged in sex." "Which answer do you like?" Zhang Guorong's expression paused, and he couldn't help laughing and scolding, "You are so shameless, you have the nerve to say that. I didn't expect Mr. Zhou to be quite powerful." "Mr. Zhou is great." "Just kidding, Chen Lian wants to be Lu Buletin, so 1 against 3 is no problem." Zhang Guorong bumped Chen Lian's shoulder and said, "I always feel flustered today. Is someone thinking about me, asking if I should take leave and go back to Xiangjiang?" "It's up to you. You are Zhang Guorong. It's normal for someone to miss you," Chen Lian said listlessly, then put his arms around his shoulders and said, "But there are so many people missing you, and you are too busy to do it. Just dream about it, let's tell them it's been a while." "You crazy person," Zhang Guorong scolded angrily, "I'm not a god, I can still tell dreams. Sincerity leads to success, don't underestimate yourself." "Silly boy," Leslie Chung laughed and scolded, then patted Chen Lian on the shoulder and said, "Hurry up and have breakfast." After breakfast, Leslie Chung and Chen Lian got on the minibus chatting and laughing. Several people were already sitting in the car. When Leslie Chung came up first, they all smiled and said hello. But when I saw Chen Lian's big dark circles, I couldn't help but laugh. He Sci-fi joked, "Lian, you were a thief last night. Why are the dark circles under your eyes so heavy?" Gong Li sat next to her with a smile on her lips, guessing that Chen Lian must not have slept well after going back last night. Chen Lian glanced at Gong Li and then said to He Sci-fi, "I didn't sleep well last night. I heard someone singing a song and was so noisy that I couldn't sleep. I should have blocked her mouth at that time." Gong Li's expression immediately became strange, and a trace of blush appeared on her cheeks. Zhang Guorong didn't even bother to expose Chen Lian's lies. He just said that he was overindulging in sex. But why was Gong Li's face red? Zhang Guorong's eyes turned between Chen Lian and Gong Li, and he seemed to understand why Chen Lian said that he had indulged in too much. Gee, young people are so open-minded. After arriving at the crew, another day of filming began, but today someone came to visit the crew. It was Chen Myron, who was chosen as the heroine before but was replaced due to rumors. At that time, Chen Myron was chosen as the heroine before Wang Jingying, but there were some scandals later. Due to the pressure, director Chen had to replace someone, and Chen Myron even turned down another drama because of this. Very unlucky. However, Chen Lian was surprised that Chen Hong came to visit the class. "Do you want to develop into movies at this time? However, it is a bit difficult for a singer-actress who plays an idol drama to act in a movie. This girl started out as a singer, but she was criticized for selling her albums based on her face." Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron, who was chatting with director Chen. She seemed to be a sweet girl, as the director smiled brightly every time she said it. A girl who can play four beauties is naturally very charming, and most people in the crew were attracted to her. She is well deserved as the most beautiful woman in mainland China. Chen Lian leaned on the pillar and looked at the beautiful face of Chen Myron. When he was still thinking about when this girl could take care of Director Chen, Gong Li suddenly came over. Keep your eyes straight, don't be afraid that Mr. Zhou will suddenly come over and bite you again. Gong Li leaned on the other side of the pillar, looked at the shallow wound on Chen Lian's lower lip and smiled. Chen Lian withdrew his gaze and rolled his eyes at Gong Li. If you are bored, go play with your brother to avoid getting too involved. There is a passionate scene between Gong Li and Leslie Chung tonight. Gong Li is so happy. I don't know how many actresses envy her. Gong Li took advantage of everyone's attention on Chen Myron and pinched Chen Lian's waist. What nonsense are you talking about? I respect my brother very much. Chen Lian stretched out and said, that's why you don't respect me anymore. He walked up to Chen Lian and whispered, we're all singing together. Isn't that respectful enough? Are you serious about singing? Who knows if you are greedy for my body, Chen Lian said dissatisfiedly. Gong Li's eyes dimmed for a moment, then she looked at Chen Lian's handsome features, her mood improved a lot and she said with a smile, I admit that I am greedy, are you not? This question was really hard to answer. Chen Lian looked at Gong Li and said nothing. Gong Li chuckled and said, I'll wait for you tonight to let you know whether I respect you or not. Just when Chen Lian wanted to say that he was not free, Director Cheng called Gong Li over to prepare for filming. Chen Lian, who had no scenes in the afternoon, was a little idle and wandered around the Pang family courtyard taking pictures with his camera. I really can't take enough pictures of the Jiangnan style. Every landscape in the yard is carefully designed, but it is as natural as a beautiful bell between heaven and earth. In the evening, most of the crew left, and tonight's scene was a passionate scene. Because of the lessons learned from Gong Li and Chen Lian, Director Cheng asked most of the people who were fine to go back to the hotel. Chen Lian was so obsessed with visiting the garden and taking pictures that he missed the minibus going back. He could only wait for Gong Li and the others to finish shooting and go back with him. Also staying is Chen Myron. This girl's goal is very clear, she is here for Director Cheng. On the set, Gong Li and Leslie Chung were still acting together. Leslie Chung still had some accent in Mandarin, so he would practice it carefully for a long time every time. Chen Lian had nothing to do and went out again with his camera. Chen Myron is also a very idle person, and Director Cheng has no time to talk to her at all. Our director is currently focused on the movie, and he is discussing the shots with Dukfan. Chen Myron, who was sitting there, also felt a little embarrassed. Gong Li and Leslie Chung were about to shoot a passionate scene, and it was not good for her to watch here, so she went out with Chen Lian. What's your name? Are you playing the Mid-Autumn Festival? Chen Myron took 2 quick steps and walked to Chen Lian and asked. Chen Lian lowered his head to change the film, looked up at Chen Hong and said, Chen Lian. I am Chen Myron, and we are still the same family, Chen Myron said with a smile. Well, the four beauties, nice to meet you. Chen Lian remembered what he said in the morning and glanced at Chen Myron with a strange expression. Seeing Chen Lian's strange expression, Chen Myron frowned slightly and asked, what's wrong? Is there something strange about me? No, Chen Lian shook his head and drove away the strange thoughts in his mind. Chen Myron said strangely, feeling that something was wrong with Chen Lian's eyes just now. Let's go shopping together? This garden is quite beautiful, Chen Myron said proactively. Good. The two of them walked around the garden in silence for a while. Chen Lian estimated that the time was almost up, so he said to Chen Myron, they should have finished shooting, let's go back. Yet Chen Myron glanced at Chen Lian's handsome face, and she actually wanted to continue walking. When the two of them walked back, they saw what seemed to be 2 figures under the dark corridor in the distance. Chen Lian squinted his eyes and took a look. He recognized who it was and felt that it was a coincidence. Chen Lian was just about to turn around and leave, then he remembered that Myron Chen was also there. He immediately turned around and looked over, and found that Myron Chen had already seen it. At a loss, Chen Myron subconsciously grabbed Chen Lian's arm, her whole body seemed to be down. Well, Chen Myron's outlook on life must have been impacted tonight. Everyone has another side, even the most serious person will have an unknown side. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 42. Chapter 42. Do you need a reason to hate someone? Seeking for further reading. In the dark path of Pang's courtyard, there is a water system passing under the bluestone steps. The sound of gurgling water is particularly obvious in the quiet night. Chen Lian followed Myron Chen, not knowing how to comfort her. After witnessing the scene just now, the image Chen Myron had originally built in her heart collapsed instantly. It's really hard to say this kind of thing. This is everyone's freedom, and others can't blame them. Chen Lian lit a cigarette silently. The scarlet sparks looked like mutated fireflies in the darkness, forming a sharp contrast with the green fireflies falling on the rockery in the distance. The lifespan of fireflies in the south seems to be much longer than that in the north. In this season, their northern counterparts have ended their short lives, while those in the south seem to be able to survive for a few more days. Chen Lian thinks red is much prettier than green, and he doesn't like either forgiveness green or fluorescent green. The silent Chen Myron might not hate the green fireflies at this moment, but she probably doesn't, and it has nothing to do with her in the first place. Chen Lian laughed silently and shook his head, feeling that his thoughts were a little strange. Chen Myron came to the set for another purpose. She is the green firefly, how could she hate it? But before this poor firefly had time to shine, it discovered that there were several fireflies lying on the target. And still. I really can't think about the scene just now, otherwise Chen Lian won't be able to communicate normally during filming tomorrow. After walking for a while, Chen Myron suddenly looked back at Chen Lian and asked, has it always been like this before? Chen Lian flicked the ashes of his cigarette and said, I don't know. It's the first time I've seen him. Chen Myron took a deep breath, suppressed the emotions in her heart, then stretched out her finger and said to Chen Lian, give me one. Ding. The crisp sound of the lighter, accompanied by a red and blue flame, lit the cigarette at Chen Myron's mouth. The smell of smoke mixed with Chen Myron's perfume instantly entered Chen Lian's nose. The perfume on Chen Myron's body exuded a light floral fragrance and a slight sweetness. When mixed with the smell of cigarette smoke, there was a wonderful chemical reaction that made Chen Lian feel a little greasy. She is really a sweet girl, but she is just a sweet girl who is not very clear-headed. Even if Chen Lian had never paid attention to her love history, he still knew a little about it. Chen Myron smoked her cigarette without saying a word for a long time. When she was about to finish smoking, she raised her head and looked at Chen Lian and asked, do you think I'm particularly funny? Chen Lian originally wanted to shake his head, but after thinking about it he nodded honestly. Chen Myron really looked like a clown tonight. She came all the way here to shine in a well-dressed manner, but she encountered such a scene. Nothing could be more ridiculous than this. Do you look down on me? Chen Myron asked in a low voice. Chen Lian threw the cigarette butt in his hand on the ground, stamped it out with his foot, and then said, there is nothing to look down on. I just met you. Who you are is none of my business. Chen Myron raised her head suddenly. She didn't expect Chen Lian to speak so directly. For a moment, she didn't know how to speak. Chen Lian looked at the fireflies on the rockery and said calmly, if you like it, act. No matter what others think of you, you can't stop it. If you don't like it, give up. The most important thing is to follow your own heart. Why do you think so much? Chen Myron was speechless for a long time after hearing this. After a while, she said, I think I don't like it now. What I just saw is too disillusioning. When I think about that scene, I feel that the world is too disillusioned. Chen Lian twitched the corner of his mouth. He was the same now. The scene he just saw would always play automatically in his mind. I really don't know how to work normally tomorrow. If you really can't do it, take a leave and adjust your mood. The persona of being dedicated to your job is going to be broken. Actually, I have a good impression. I came here this time to see if there is any chance. Chen Myron paused and laughed at herself and said, "Do you think I am very unethical?" Chen Myron originally wanted to say shameless, but in the end she changed the word to a girl with character. In the darkness, Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron's beautiful little face and felt it was a pity, so he calmly replied, "I don't take a stand on things that haven't happened yet. Many things are done without regard for the cause. What has not been done is done, forget it." Chen Myron lowered her head and nodded slightly as she repeated Chen Lian's words about his deeds regardless of his heart. Then he raised his head and looked at Chen Lian and said, "But I've told you my plan, so I can't count on my heart." Chen Lian shrugged his shoulders and said, "I told you that I just met you. Who you are is none of my business." Chen Myron, this person is so annoying. I want to blow his head off. Okay, don't think so much. Go back. If you don't leave, they should leave. Chen Lian didn't know what time it was, but he estimated that if it was a little later, Director Cheng and the others might really leave. Chen Myron stood there without moving, took Chen Lian's arm and said, "I don't want to sit in the same car with them." Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron's pleading eyes and said helplessly, "You don't think I have a car, do you? If I don't go with them, I have to walk back, which is several kilometers." "Then walk back." Chen Myron looked at Chen Lian and shook his arm. Chen Lian had no sympathy for Chen Myron at all, and directly replied, "Then go on your own. Can you come with me?" "I'm afraid of the dark." Chen Myron pulled Chen Lian and was unwilling to let him go. She would be scared to death if she walked back into such a dark garden by herself. Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron's pleading eyes and couldn't help but complain, "Where is your courage to go all the way here? You are still afraid of the dark." Chen Lian's somewhat harsh words made Chen Myron purse her lips and stop talking, but she still held Chen Lian's arm and didn't let go. Okay, I've convinced you, let's go," Chen Lian said angrily. "We can't really leave Chen Hong here alone." In fact, Chen Lian couldn't explain why he couldn't help but say bad words to Myron Cheng. Maybe he simply felt that her inner self was not worthy of that face. "You don't have such a beautiful face for nothing." When they came out of Pang's courtyard, Director Cheng and the others had already left. Chen Lianbin didn't think it was strange. They were all adults. Maybe they thought he and Myron Cheng had gone back to the hotel long ago. Although Chen Lian was ready to walk back, he was still a little disappointed. He was a person who enjoyed himself and would definitely choose to take a car if he could. Walking side by side with Chen Myron in the ancient water town, Chen Lian felt a little depressed. Originally, he should be painting Mr. Zhou in his room at this time. After walking for a while, Chen Myron still couldn't hold it back. She looked at Chen Lian's profile and asked, "Why do you hate me so much?" "I didn't say I hate you." Chen Lian shook his head. Chen Myron said directly, "I can feel it, you hate me." Chen Lian stopped, raised his eyebrows and said, "Okay, a little bit." Chen Myron, who is usually highly sought after, is slightly depressed. She is one of the four beauties. The most popular beauty in costume right now. The most beautiful woman in ancient costume. Why? Do you need a reason to hate someone? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 43. Chapter 43. Liking is just lust, please read more. The moonlight is thick, and the clear moonlight is like a goddess's veil, covering this beautiful world in a hazy coat. Under the half-moon, two slanting shadows sway leisurely on the bluestone pavement, like a close lover walking under the moon. But the atmosphere among the shadow owners was a bit tense, which was in sharp contrast to this wonderful night. Chenmiren's beautiful little face was filled with anger, her slender eyebrows were knitted together, and her beautiful eyes were filled with depression when she looked at Chen Lian. She couldn't understand why the person she met on the first day said so bluntly that he hated her, and even said that he didn't need a reason to hate someone. The scarlet sparks of the cigarette were burning rapidly. Chen Lian took out a puff of smoke and turned the silver lighter between his fingers, emitting a faint light under the moonlight. "Really hate me?" Chen Miren looked at Chen Lian's handsome face and asked, then turned around and said angrily, "Forget it, they are just strangers anyway." Chen Lian watched Miren Chen walk in the opposite direction to the hotel, and stood there without moving, waiting to see when the girl would react. Chen Miren walked forward for more than 10 steps without hearing Chen Lian's footsteps. She panicked and turned around to look back, only to find that Chen Lian was still standing there. His slender figure looked hazy in the moonlight, and he looked quite handsome, but this person was a bit annoying, and his face was blinded in vain. At this moment, Chen Miren's thoughts actually agreed with Chen Lian's. They both thought that the other person's appearance did not match his own. "Why are you standing there? Can you leave?" Chen Miren shouted angrily. Chen Lian calmly smoked a cigarette and said, "You're going the wrong way." "Huh?" Chen Miren was stunned for a moment, ran back with some embarrassment, looked at Chen Lian and shouted, "Then you didn't tell me earlier." Chen Lian didn't really want to talk to Chen Miren. If he hadn't seen her good looking, he would have left her here and gone home. Looking at Chen Lian's back as he turned away, Chen Miren pouted and followed silently. What happened in the past 2 days made Chen Lian inexplicably disgusted. After coming to this crew, he realized that the Hawaii crew was not even as cold as the poor. Everything was overly self-aware, and Chen Lian didn't feel any excitement, or even touch, about this performance. Director Cheng's frequent inspirations and changes constantly made Chen Lian lose his feeling for the character again and again. The presence of Mr. Zhou and Gong Li outside the play made Chen Lian's heart become impetuous, and the experience of being entangled between two women made him almost addicted. This is a terrible out-of-control experience. Not talking about feelings is Chen Lian's rule, but it doesn't mean he has to become a slave to desire. Especially what happened tonight made Chen Lian feel disgusted with everything about the Hawaii crew. He wanted to stay somewhere else for 2 days to calm down his impatient heart. Chen Miren, who was following Chen Lian, looked at his side face and felt that the sky suddenly became very low pressure and had no energy at all. He looked like a confused and helpless lamb that could only bleat and bark wildly. The idea that came to mind made Chen Miren couldn't help but laugh. She didn't know why she imagined Chen Lian as a bleating lamb. This usually describes a woman's frailty. But Chen Lian, who was tall and powerful, didn't look frail at all. In comparison, she was a frail, lamb-like woman. Thinking of this, Miren Chen couldn't hold back her laughter, and her depressed mood after being hit twice in a row at night improved a lot. The confused lamb Chen Lian glanced at Chen Miren, who was covering her mouth and laughing softly. He didn't understand why she could still laugh. This kind of strange woman's brain circuit was really strange. Stranger than her aesthetics. Seeing Chen Lian looking at her, Chen Miren snorted and said, "What are you looking at? Don't you hate me?" "I don't hate your face." Chen Lian said this and stopped looking at her. However, the corners of Chen Miren's mouth turned up slightly, feeling that Chen Lian was quibbling. He said he hated it, but he still liked it in his heart. More than 20 minutes later, the two returned to the hotel, and Chen Lian left Chen Miren on the first floor, leaving only Chen Miren's back. Looking up at Chen Lian, who was hurriedly going upstairs, Chen Miren couldn't help clenching her fists, feeling unconvinced for no reason. Maybe Chen Miran herself didn't realize that she actually cared a little about Chen Lian's opinion of her. This was a very dangerous sign. When Chen Lian came to the third floor and passed by Gong Li's room, he found that her door was open, probably because she was waiting for him. Without thinking, Chen Lian walked over and pushed the door open. He saw Gong Li sitting on the sofa with her legs crossed, and a bottle of red wine in her hand. Judging from the packaging, it should have been brought by Zhang Guorong. Chen Lian stood by the door without going in. He just leaned against the wall and looked at Gong Li. "I just came here to tell you that I won't be coming tonight. Remember to close the door." Gong Li was startled for a moment, a trace of disappointment flashed in her eyes, then she put down her crossed legs, raised her chin, looked at Chen Lian and said, "I know." Chen Lian quietly exited and closed the door, then quickly left and returned to his room. It's better not to provoke Gong Li for the time being, even if her sister is gentle, obedient, and cooperative. Having Mr. Zhou is troublesome enough now. Mr. Zhou may cause some trouble tonight. As soon as Chen Lian entered his room, he saw Mr. Zhou sitting on the edge of the bed with his chin on his knees in a daze. Mr. Zhou lowered his head and looked at Chen Lian's shadow, and asked absently, "You are back, why are you so late?" "Well, I didn't catch the bus back, so I walked back," Chen Lian explained lightly, walked to Mr. Zhou, knelt down and looked at her and asked, "What's wrong?" "I thought you wouldn't come back tonight." Mr. Zhou looked into Chen Lian's eyes, his big eyes full of sadness. Chen Lian sighed inwardly. Mr. Zhou's behavior would make him feel uneasy, so he reached out and touched her head and said, "Don't be like this, you don't look like Mr. Zhou at all." "I'm not Mr. Zhou in the first place, it's you who screamed." Mr. Zhou put down the leg that was supporting his chin, grabbed Chen Lian's hand and stroked his face. Chen Lian's fingers felt Mr. Zhou's smooth and tender skin and said softly, "You will scare me if you look like this." Mr. Zhou held Chen Lian's hand for a moment, his eyes quickly dimmed, and the room suddenly became quiet, with only the sound of the fan squeaking, which made people a little upset. "But I really fell in love with you." Mr. Zhou's voice sounded after a long time, like the bleak autumn wind quietly carrying away a fallen leaf, helpless and poignant. Chen Lian placed his fingers on Mr. Zhou's face and rubbed his cheek, and said softly, "Love and liking are different. We always magnify liking and think it is love, but in fact it is just lust. A person is lucky to fall in love with one person in his life. Are you sure I am the lucky one?" Mr. Zhou said with some frustration, "Why do you set the standard of love so high? This is a fact. The reason why true love makes people moved and envious is because it is rare, and what most people call love is just cheap liking. They can like you today and they can also like someone else tomorrow." Chen Lian's words reduced the love that Mr. Zhou just said to be worthless. This made Mr. Zhou a little angry because his love was so cheap. Like this thing itself is very cheap, because it is too easy to produce, so it will be cheap. Chen Lian looked at Mr. Zhou's depressed look and said, "Let's do an experiment. I'm going to take leave tomorrow and leave the crew for 2 days. Feel it for yourself in these 2 days. Then you will find that it's not a big deal if you don't have Chen Lian in your life." "Where are you going?" Mr. Zhou only grasped this important point and was not interested in the so-called experiment at all. He stubbornly believed that he loved Chen Lian. Chen Lian yawned and said, "Back in the capital, I promised a friend that I would paint a picture for her. She must be a woman." "You haven't finished painting for me yet." Mr. Zhou looked at the half-painted oil painting placed by the window. A colorful girl's shadow could already be seen on it. "It's just that this style is different from the paintings I've seen before, and it's different from the current oil painting style. It has a very novel and psychedelic feeling, as if it comes from the future." Chen Lian rubbed Mr. Zhou's head and said, "Then I'll finish the painting for you first." "Good." Under the hazy moonlight by the window, Mr. Zhou took off his clothes, put on a white gauze and looked sadly at the incomplete crescent moon outside the window. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 44. Chapter 44. Three different women, please follow up. Under the hazy moonlight, Chen Lian outlined the sorrowful light in Mr. Zhou's eyes on the canvas. On the canvas in front of Chen Lian, a woman with a graceful figure and a sad expression is looking at the bright moon in the sky, as if praying to the bright moon. Although Mr. Zhou in the painting only wears a white gauze on his chest, he has a sense of holiness. This may be the true portrayal of nudity being the most holy once it becomes art. When Mr. Zhou saw Chen Lian put away his brush, he wrapped the white gauze tightly around his body and ran to the canvas with bare feet to look at it carefully. She was a little too beautiful in the painting, which fascinated her, and she couldn't help but want to reach out and touch it. Chen Lian immediately grabbed Mr. Zhou's hand and said, "Don't move. The paint is not dry yet. It will take a few days before you can touch it." "It's so beautiful." Mr. Zhou turned his head and looked at Chen Lian and said, "You painted me so beautifully." "Because you are beautiful." Chen Lian originally wanted to pinch Mr. Zhou's face, but gave up after seeing that there was still paint on his fingers. Mr. Zhou, however, casually grabbed Chen Lian's hand and put it on his face. He was as obedient as a kitten waiting for its master to come home. The red paint traced along Chen Lian's fingertips on Mr. Zhou's fair face, adding a touch of heroism to Mr. Zhou out of thin air and dispelling the original resentment in his body. The two of them looked at each other a little emotionally at this moment. Mr. Zhou suddenly stood up on his tiptoes and hugged Chen Lian's waist, kissing his chin. When Chen Lian woke up the next morning, Mr. Zhou actually got up before him for the first time. "Why did you get up so early?" Chen Lian asked with a yawn. Mr. Zhou sat on the bed with his legs bent and his chin resting on his knees, looking at Chen Lian and saying, "Didn't you say you were going back to the capital today? I'm afraid you'd disappear if I came together." Chen Lian sat up and rubbed Mr. Zhou's head and said, "Don't speak so sadly, as if I'm going to die." "It's better to die, so I don't have to worry about it," Mr. Zhou muttered quietly. Chen Lian laughed dumbly, stretched out, and jumped out of bed to move his body, and opened the curtains to let the dazzling sunlight shine into the room. Just when Chen Lian was about to take a breath of fresh air, Mr. Zhou behind him threw a pillow and hit Chen Lian on his body. "With the curtains closed, it's so dazzling," Mr. Zhou said, raising his hands to cover his eyes. Chen Lian curled his lips helplessly and closed the curtains again, and darkness once again enveloped the entire room. Mr. Zhou also got up at this moment, raised his little foot and kicked Chen Lian angrily, and said angrily, "I didn't know I had no clothes on, and I even closed the curtains. I just want to show off your sadness. You look like a depressed person when you wake up early in the morning." Chen Lian turned around and looked at young Master Zhou, who was sitting on the edge of the bed, dangling his feet. "You are depressed." "I am fine." Mr. Zhou seemed to have regained his vitality and turned back into the human elf. Chen Lian couldn't help but play with Mr. Zhou's head and said, "You are the most beautiful now. Don't let yourself become sad, otherwise you have no soul." Mr. Zhou looked up at Chen Lian and could tell that he was sincere. He said with some confusion, "You are sometimes ruthless, but you are also sincere to me. I can hardly tell which one is the real you. I don't know what I mean to you." Chen Lian smiled, scratched Mr. Zhou's nose and said, "It's Mr. Zhou, the unique Mr. Zhou." Chen Lian said a few good words and asked Mr. Zhou to help him pack his clothes, and then he ran to Director Cheng to ask for leave. Director Cheng seemed to have just gotten up, and his temples were still wet. When he saw that it was Chen Lian knocking on the door, he asked a little strangely, "Lian, what do you want from me so early in the morning?" Chen Lian's eyes subconsciously glanced at Director Cheng's room. When he didn't find anything, he said seriously, "I want to take 2 days off. I won't have any scenes in the next 2 days. I want to go back to the capital to deal with some personal matters." Director Cheng wiped his hair and asked, "Didn't I ask for leave for you and the school? Why are you going back?" "It's a personal matter of my own. I just want to go back and deal with it while I'm not in the scene," Chen Lian explained again. Director Chen doesn't want to let him go. What if he suddenly gets inspiration and needs to make an appearance during the Mid-Autumn Festival? However, according to the shooting plan, Chen Lian did not have any scenes in the next 2 days, and it was not easy to force people to stay, so he asked tactfully, "Are things urgent? If not, the crew will stop working at the end of the month. Can we go back at that time?" Chen Lian's expression did not change. He guessed what Director Chen was thinking, but he was speechless. "How afraid are you that your inspiration will not be used? You still have no inspiration." "Director, the matter is urgent, so I have to go back." Seeing Chen Lian's insistence, Director Chen had no choice but to agree to let him go. After all, he was on a film crew here, not a prison. With Director Chen's consent, Chen Lian did not go back to his room immediately. Instead, he went around to Gong Li's room and knocked on the door. Gong Li left the door half open, her loose hair tied back, and she leaned against the wall and refused to let Chen Lian in. "Why are you here? Don't you want to come to my place?" Chen Lian didn't care about the displeasure in Gong Li's words. He looked at her and said, "I'm going back to the capital for 2 days to tell you." "Come right back, did you tell me what you said?" Gong Li said angrily and slammed the door. She originally thought that Chen Lian came here to say some soft words, but she didn't expect that he came to say some unreasonable things. It was only after being angry for a while that Gong Li realized that there was indeed no need for Chen Lian to come over and say something that was impossible to win. Was he here specifically to tell him not to worry, or was he taking the initiative to report it? No matter what the reason is, it shows that he is still quite important in Chen Lian's heart. After reacting, Gong Li regretted what she had done to Chen Lian just now. She was about to get up and chase Chen Lian, but she stopped halfway and turned around with a smile on her face to wash her face and brush her teeth. Chen Lian is no longer Zhang Yumou himself, nor is he Gong Li before. These boring tricks have no meaning, just keep them in mind. Chen Lian on the other side didn't care about Gong Li's attitude just now. After returning to his room, he looked at Mr. Zhou's packed luggage. After breakfast, the crew all went to the set. Mr. Zhou didn't go for 2 or 3 days in a row, so he went to the set to study today. Chen Lian was carrying his backpack and was about to find a bus to Suzhou and then take the bus back to the capital when he met Chen Miran downstairs of the hotel. "Why are you here? Didn't you go to the set?" Chen Miran asked in surprise. Chen Lian shook the bag in his hand and said, "Go back to the capital." "I'm also going back to the capital, let's go together," Chen Miran said immediately with her eyes shining. Chen Lian asked a little strangely, "Aren't you here to visit the class? Why did you go back so soon?" Asking knowingly, Chen Miran couldn't help but choked, then looked at Chen Lian and said angrily, "Do you want to go back together?" Chen Lian did not agree immediately, but asked, "How are you going back? Drive, do you know how to drive?" "Let's drive alternately." Chen Miran stretched out her hand and showed the car key in her palm. Chen Lian asked strangely, "Then why didn't you drive to Peng's courtyard yesterday? You even walked back in the end." Chen Miran was a little angry and embarrassed to tell her what she was thinking yesterday, so she glared at Chen Lian and shouted, "You care so much about whether you can leave or not. Let's go." "But I don't have a driver's license," Chen Lian agreed since he didn't want to ride in the car. "Then you are responsible for chatting with me." Chen Miran immediately thrust her box into Chen Lian's hand and walked towards her car with her hands behind her back with a smile on her face. Chen Lian couldn't help but smile when he looked at Chen Miran's back, then followed him carrying the box. New week begins. I hope the little cuties will not be discovered while working and defrauding capitalists of their wages. Big bosses who run companies, I wish you can capture native-speaking employees and squeeze out their residual value. Comrades who go to school, just give me a good lesson. Don't fish. I'm going to sleep in anyway, haha. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 45. Chapter 45. One bed can be crowded. Please follow up. In the speeding car, Chen Lian looked at the receding scenery outside the window, his thoughts drifting away. I haven't returned to the capital for more than 2 months, and I don't know if Bai Qing has moved out now or if he will wait for me to go back. What are you thinking about? Don't forget that the condition of your ride is to chat with me. Chen Miren glanced at Chen Lian, who was in a daze, and said with some dissatisfaction. Chen Lian came back to his senses, adjusted the angle of the seat, and turned his eyes to Chen Miren, who was driving. Chen Miren's profile is also very beautiful, and the way she concentrates on driving is very charming. Looking at Chen Miren's skillful driving skills, Chen Lian asked curiously, "Did you drive here from the capital by yourself before?" "Yes, taking the train is too troublesome. You have to wait for the train in the middle of the night, and there are too many people. I don't like it." Chen Miren originally wanted to say that she was also a big star after all, but thinking of Chen Lian's unforgiving character, she held back her words. "Then why not take a plane? I remember Suzhou opened a flight to the capital." Chen Lian was a little curious. Chen Miren should be quite rich. Isn't flying better than driving? Chen Lian wanted to come by plane at that time, but because he was short of money, he could only take the train. "Do you have no money to engage in art?" Chen Lian felt that he had to find a way to make some money, otherwise he would probably have to live on a soft diet in the future. Chen Miren glanced at Chen Lian and said, "Don't you know about the aviation accident a few months ago?" Having said this, Chen Lian remembered that in June, the largest aviation accident in China so far occurred. More than 100 people were killed, including everyone on the plane, which caused most people in the country to worry about the safety of the plane. Chen Lian was silent for a while, took out a cigarette from his pocket and asked, "Can I smoke?" "Okay," Chen Miren said, stretching out her fingers, waving her fair and slender fingers playfully and saying, "Order one for me too." Yeah, Chen Lian took out a cigarette and lit it, then put it on Chen Miren's finger. When his fingers touched Chen Miren's palm, he could clearly feel that her skin was smooth and her fingers were still a little cold. Chen Miren held the cigarette between her hands, and she didn't care that it was Chen Lian who had smoked it. She put it directly to her lips and took a puff. The delicate little mouth gently exhaled smoke, and then said, "I didn't expect you to be quite sentimental." "What?" Chen Lian, who was in a daze, was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at Chen Miren, confused. Chen Miren glanced at the rearview mirror, then turned to look at Chen Lian and said, "I said you are quite sentimental. There are so many accidents happening in the world every year." Chen Lian suddenly realized and laughed and said, "You are overthinking, but you just think that accidents will always happen inadvertently, so you must cherish your current life, maybe one day." "Stop," Chen Miren immediately interrupted Chen Lian, rolled her beautiful eyes and said, "We are driving, don't talk nonsense." Chen Lian pursed his lips and stopped talking, turning to look at the scenery outside the window. The cigarettes in the hands of the two people floated with blue smoke, filling the small car, and then drifted out along the gap in the car window. Maybe because she was bored, Chen Miren found a topic and asked, "What are you doing back in the capital?" But there was something unhappy in his heart. It felt like Chen Lian really didn't like him very much. Even when chatting, he took the initiative. "If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have taken him with me," Chen Miren muttered in her heart. "I promised my friend to draw her a picture," Chen Lian explained calmly. Chen Miren asked in surprise, "Can you draw?" Isn't it weird?" Chen Lian looked at the somewhat surprised Chen Miren and took a closer look. He suddenly felt that Chen Miren would be great as a model. She has a delicate appearance, a gentle temperament, and most importantly, a very good figure. Although she is not plump, she has a classical style. Chen Lian ignored Chen Miren's surprise and threw the cigarette butt out of the car window. Then he turned to see that the cigarette held in Chen Miren's fingers was almost finished, So he reached out and took the cigarette butt from her hand and threw it out. "What time can we arrive tonight?" Chen Lian suddenly asked. Chen Myron shook her head and said, "We can't arrive tonight. I'm very tired of driving alone. I definitely won't be able to do it for more than 10 hours. What should we do? Let's rest for one night and start again tomorrow morning." Chen Lian couldn't understand why Chen Myron had the guts to spend the night with a strange man whom she had only known for less than 2 days. There were a lot of people in the guest house near the highway, mostly truck drivers, and it was very noisy and chaotic. Seeing the poor environment and small space of the guest house in front of him, Chen Lian turned to look at Chen Myron and said, "How about changing to another hotel?" The waiter sitting at the front desk eating melon seeds heard Chen Lian's words and said rudely, "We are the only guest house nearby." Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron helplessly, and wanted to suggest that he should just drive back. "Look what I'm doing. Who told you that you don't have a driver's license? There are so many people checking cars along the way. You can't let me drive for more than 10 hours." Chen Myron directly sentenced Chen Lian's idea to death. "Okay." Chen Lian frowned, turned around and looked at the front desk of the guest house and said, "Open 2 single rooms." "No more, just one room." The receptionist put down the melon seeds in his hand, took out a key from the drawer and threw it on the table, without any sense of service. This is what the big shop bullies say. If you can't find a way out, you can't find a shop, you can't live without it. Chen Lian could only pay the money, take the key and lead Chen Myron to clear the way. The corridor of the guest house is very small, and there are a few tourists standing at the door of their rooms smoking and chatting. In the dim light and smoke, this narrow passage looks particularly dangerous. When Chen Myron passed by, the tourists who spoke the dialect of Tianan Hebei looked at her without any politeness. Such an environment and atmosphere made Chen Myron a little scared. She lowered her head and nervously held Chen Lian's hand and followed him closely. She was particularly glad that she took Chen Lian back with her, otherwise she would never dare to stay in such a guest house. Chen Lian's tall figure was still intimidating, and when those people looked over, they glared back. It's very dangerous to go out these days. It's hard for Chen Lian to imagine how Chen Myron drove from the capital to Suzhou by herself before. Soon they were walking down the hall to their rooms. The single room in the guest house is really small, with only one bed and a broken electric fan, and the bedside table is missing a corner. After entering the room and closing the door, Chen Myron immediately breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest and said, "I'm scared to death. Those people look so scary." Chen Lian kicked the bed in the room. It seemed to be quite sturdy without shaking. Then he looked at Chen Myron and said, "It's nothing scary. They all come out to do business to make a living." Chen Myron was still a little frightened, holding Chen Lian's hand and not daring to let go. "Why did you come here by yourself before? Didn't you rest on the way?" Chen Lian looked at Chen Myron and asked. Chen Myron pouted and explained, "I have a friend in Li. I rested at her place last time." She also knew that it was not safe to go out alone, but who would have thought it could be so scary? The people in the corridor just now were like labor reform prisoners, making vicious noises. Chen Lian didn't ask why he didn't rest with his Li friend this time, but just warned, "If you go out alone in the future, it is best to take a train or a plane instead of driving by yourself." "Yes, I understand." Chen Myron became a little more obedient now, losing her previous arrogance. Chen Lian glanced at the relatively clean bedding on the bed and said, "It's getting late. You should rest. Don't take off your clothes. The quilt is not clean." After speaking, Chen Lian took his hand out of Chen Myron's, looked at the thermos bottle on the wall and said, "Wait for me here, I'll get some hot water." Chen Lian's generous and strong palm gave Chen Myron a great sense of security, and she felt a little panicked after she suddenly pulled it away. Chen Lian picked up the water bottle and went out to fetch water. Chen Myron was the only one left in the room. The small room, the noisy chatter and laughter outside the door, and the occasional swear words made Chen Myren feel uneasy, as if those people would rush in at the next moment. Fortunately, Chen Lian came back soon with a water bottle, and Chen Myren immediately stood up and took his hand. Chen Lian turned to look at Chen Myren and said, "It's just half a bottle of hot water. It's enough to wash your face and feet. You can rest after washing. Give me the car keys and I'll go and spend the night in the car." "Don't." When Chen Myren heard that Chen Lian was going to the car, she immediately held his arms in fear. Sensing the fear in Chen Myren's heart, Chen Lian said helplessly, "It's not safe to leave the car outside, and there is only one bed here. Just close the door later and everything will be fine." Chen Myren was stunned for a moment, then thought quickly and said, "We paid the parking fee, so don't worry about it. It's okay to squeeze into one bed." When she said the last part, Chen Myren's voice dropped, and the arms holding Chen Lian subconsciously tightened, and a faint blush appeared on her fair face. Chen Lian felt the soft elasticity on his arms, and seemed to feel Chen Myren's frightened and nervous heartbeat. "Just squeeze in if you squeeze in, it's okay if the conditions are difficult." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 46. Chapter 46. Not talking about martial ethics, please read more. In the dark room, the bedding on the small wooden bed exuded a faint musty smell. Chen Lian couldn't help but turn his face in the direction of Chen Myren. The sweet girl had a nice perfume smell on her body. Although it was very light, it was enough to offset the musty smell of the quilt. Chen Myren blinked in the darkness and couldn't sleep at all. After noticing Chen Lian turning his head towards her, she couldn't help but turn her head to look at Chen Lian. But Chen Lian had his eyes closed, wondering if he was asleep. There was only a faint light in the room, and Chen Myren could not see Chen Lian's face clearly. She could only vaguely see his straight nose and clear jawline. "It's really beautiful," Chen Myren thought silently in her heart. If Chen Lian knew Chen Myren's thoughts, he would definitely refresh his understanding of her. It turns out that her aesthetics is not abnormal. Chen Myren quietly moved forward to get a better view. With his eyes closed, Chen Lian felt Chen Myren's approach, and the fragrance on the tip of his nose became a little stronger. When he opened his eyes slightly, he saw that Chen Myren's face was less than 10 centimeters away from him. If he moved a little closer, he could kiss her. "On. You're not asleep," Chen Myren said softly when she saw Chen Lian opening his eyes. Chen Lian hummed and asked, "Didn't you say you were tired? Why haven't you slept yet?" Chen Lian's eyes were very bright in the dark, as if they were glowing. Chen Myren couldn't help but arch forward again, and the tip of her nose almost touched Chen Lian's chin. "Why are your eyes so bright?" Chen Lian shrank back, looked at Chen Myren and said, "I'm not a dog, don't say it so weirdly." "I didn't mean that." Chen Myren couldn't help but hit Chen Lian, as if blaming him for stepping back. Chen Lian turned over and said, "Okay, go to sleep, we have to drive tomorrow." Oh, Chen Myren was so angry that she really wanted to kick Chen Lian down. Was she so annoying? His back was turned to her. Chen Myren snorted and turned her back to Chen Lian. "She is so beautiful and amazing. If I don't look at it, who is not a beauty?" Gradually, the only sounds left in the room were the breathing of the two people and the occasional barking of a dog in the distance outside the window. Chen Lian squinted his eyes and endured the musty smell of the bedding and slowly fell asleep. Chen Myren on the other side also closed her eyes, but her slightly trembling eyelashes betrayed the fact that she was not asleep. Listening to Chen Lian's gradually steady and deep breathing, Chen Myren felt a little inexplicably irritable. How could she fall asleep? The four beauties don't want to lose face. Is the most beautiful woman in mainland China a joke? Moreover, Chen Miren could clearly feel that Chen Lian's alienation from her was not because of being a gentleman, but because of simple indifference. Chen Miren, who became more and more angry as she thought about it, turned around and looked at Chen Lian's back, raised her foot and kicked him over. Her delicate little feet instantly kicked Chen Lian's lower back, and before he could exert any force, Chen Lian caught him with his backhand. Chen Lian woke up when Chen Miren turned over. Before he could react, he felt that Chen Miren was about to sneak up on him, and instinctively grabbed her outstretched foot with his backhand. After all, he has been practicing Bagua for several years and has no shortage of practical experience. He is not ready to deal with such a small sneak attack. Chen Lian grabbed Chen Miren's little sole and exerted slight force. Chen Miren immediately cried out in pain, "Let go, it hurts me." "Why are you kicking me?" Chen Lian asked without letting go of Chen Miren's foot. Chen Miren's expression paused, hesitating and not knowing how to explain, struggling to pull her foot out of Chen Lian's hand. Seeing Mei Cheng's hesitation, Chen Lian was too lazy to continue arguing with her. He let go of her feet and said, "Be honest and go to bed quickly." "Oh," Chen Miren said again, silently retracting her feet, watching Chen Lian turn around and continue sleeping. The feet that had just been retracted were a little bit ready to move. "I really want to kick him, what should I do?" Chen Lian seemed to sense Chen Miren's imminent thoughts, and said abruptly, "Sleep well." "Oh." Chen Miren crossed her legs and said honestly again. It seemed that her aura was naturally suppressed by Chen Lian, so why couldn't she be strong? After a while, Chen Mei thought in annoyance, why she was like a fool, how could she not be shrewd at all, and how could she not have the demeanor of a big star? In the darkness, Chen Miren's eyes were rolling, as if she was thinking about how to make Chen Lian kneel under her pomegranate skirt, and then step on him hard. With such fantasy, Chen Miren also slowly fell asleep. After driving for 6 or 7 hours during the day, she was indeed a little sleepy. The room was completely quiet, except for the even breathing of the two people. The next morning there were noisy sounds outside the room. All the passengers from last night had already gotten up and started to go out to make a living. Chen Lian also woke up in a daze, subconsciously thinking that he was still in Tongli Water Village, Suzhou, with Mr. Zhou. Chen Lian woke up immediately and realized what was wrong. This was too embarrassing. Before Chen Miren woke up and got ready, Chen Lian heard Chen Miren groan twice and her body twisted a few times. This small action instantly made Chen Lian's blood surge. How could he still be provocative while he was asleep? Is he really gifted? They are indeed four beauties. Just when Chen Lian was about to get up quietly, he saw that Mei Cheng seemed to be waking up. He immediately closed his eyes and did not dare to move. He wanted to wait for Mei Ren to calm down before getting up secretly, otherwise it would be too embarrassing. It's just that although the thought is good, the reality is the opposite. The confused brain instantly thought of the people she met in the corridor outside yesterday, and the subconscious panic made Chen Miren wake up instantly. But when she opened her eyes, she found that she was very safe and was being held by Chen Lian. It was a very safe embrace. Chen Miren breathed a sigh of relief, but she felt that something was wrong now. How could she be in Chen Lian's arms? And looking at this position, it seems that I turned over from the other side of the bed. Chen Miren glanced down and her face immediately turned red. What's going on? Who should take the initiative? Chen Miren, who had just woken up, was a little confused. Did she take the initiative to get into Chen Lian's arms, or did Chen Lian not follow martial ethics? Why is he so skilled? Chen Miren didn't know what to do now. She quietly raised her head and glanced at Chen Lian and found that he was not awake yet, and she felt relieved. Phew. Such a slight movement made Chen Miren extremely nervous, fearing that Chen Lian would wake up. Chen Miren realized just after she removed Chen Lian's hand, why should she be so careful? What a big deal. A little girl's revenge never lasts overnight. Thinking of this, Chen Miren let go of the hand holding Chen Lian's arm. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 47. Chapter 47. I accidentally got myself involved, please follow up. The early morning sunlight passed through the thin and old curtains of the guest house and shone into the room. Chen Lian opened his eyes helplessly, but he really didn't understand Chen Miren's brain circuit. Are all women in the entertainment industry so wild? Sure enough, women who can play the four beauties are not good at all. Chen Lian's plan to pretend to be asleep completely failed. Chen Miren also noticed that Chen Lian was awake. She arched her sexy body restlessly and said, "How is it? Do you still hate me?" Chen Lian sneered, finally understanding Chen Miren's plan, and directly raised his hand to push Miren Cheng forward. "Go back wherever you came from." Chen Miren was pushed over twice by Chen Lian and rolled to the other side of the bed. "Chen Miren, isn't this too insulting?" "Chen Lian," Chen Miren sat up frantically and looked at Chen Lian and shouted. After Chen Lian hummed, he glanced at Chen Miren lightly, narrowed his eyes slightly and asked with a sense of oppression, "What's wrong?" "To deal with this kind of ambitious and restless woman, you have to be stronger. When she finds that she can't handle it, she will retreat on her own." "Brother Kaiser." "Oh, no, our dear director just didn't become strong, and then he was taken advantage of." Chen Miren looked at Chen Lian's cold face and oppressive eyes, and subconsciously closed her legs and knelt on the bed obediently. Chen Lian's mouth twitched, something wasn't quite right with this plot. "What do you look like with your clothes on?" Chen Lian turned away and stopped looking. Chen Miren didn't know why, but she felt a little lost. Was she so unattractive? Inexplicably, I felt a little sad and a little inferior. Chen Lian didn't go to see Chen Miren anymore and went out carrying a thermos bottle and a wash basin. Chen Miren, who was kneeling on the bed, put on her clothes silently, then sat there in a daze. "This man is a bit troublesome, but it doesn't matter. He's not a big shot. Why should he be so concerned?" Chen Miren comforted herself in her heart. It was just the slight unwillingness in her heart that made it difficult for Chen Miren to ignore the feeling of being ignored and rejected. Chen Lian, who went out to get hot water, came back after a while. When he saw Chen Miren sitting on the bed, he shouted, "Come here and wash your face and brush your teeth." "Oh, why is it so bad?" Chen Miren pouted and walked up to Chen Lian. She looked at the wash basin in his hand and the corners of her mouth suddenly turned up. "What a cow? You're not just serving me water." "Humph, man." Chen Miren was in a good mood. She looked at the new towel and basin Chen Lian bought last night, and the smile on her lips became stronger. She didn't notice that he was quite considerate yesterday. Chen Lian looked at Chen Miren as if she were a fool, wondering if her brain was broken and why she was smiling and depressed. Chen Miren lowered her head and put her hand into the basin. The warm water immediately made her feel comfortable, and the water temperature was also very good. Chen Miren hummed a tune without melody and slowly washed her face. Then she soaked the towel in the water and picked it up to wash Chen Lian's face. Such gentle movements frightened Chen Lian to take a step back. Only one sentence came to his mind: "She actually cooked me a bowl of noodles." Chen Miren's hand paused, her expression instantly collapsed, and she suddenly felt aggrieved. When she got angry, she threw the towel on Chen Lian's face and ran out angrily. Chen Lian looked at Chen Miren's running back, quickly put down the wash basin and chased her out. He had just overreacted. The most important thing is that Mei Cheng cannot run away, otherwise how will he return to the capital? When Chen Lian chased her out, Chen Miren had already walked to the car, but she stopped and hesitated in front of the car door. After a pause, Chen Lian caught up with him. After hearing Chen Lian's footsteps, Chen Mei took out the key and opened the car door. Chen Lian also immediately opened the door and got in. Chen Miren did not stop her but also ignored Chen Lian. He just inserted the key and started the car with a cold face. Chen Lian looked at Chen Miren, who was not wearing a seat belt, and reminded her, "Seat belt. You don't have to worry about it," Chen Miren yelled, then started the car and stepped on the accelerator and jumped out. Chen Lian did not dare to speak anymore, for fear that Chen Miren would drag him to death in a fit of anger. After Chen Miren stepped on the accelerator and raced for a while, she slowly calmed down. She glanced at Chen Lian, who was afraid to speak, and couldn't help cursing in her heart. A bitch is quite good at manipulating people's hearts. He almost killed himself when he traveled all the way to visit the class. Got in. After calming down, Chen Miren slowly slowed down the speed of the car, but she still didn't talk to Chen Lian. It was such a good opportunity to come over and check it out. It was such a pity. Chen Miren, whose IQ was back online, decided not to say a word to Chen Lian again until he took the initiative to apologize. When Chen Lian, the co-pilot, saw Chen Miren's speed slowing down, he was relieved. His life was saved. It's scary when a woman goes crazy. Turning his head to look at Chen Miren, he found that her expression was still cold. Chen Lian was about to apologize when he suddenly realized that this was not the result he wanted. Chen Miren is a woman with many thoughts. If she gets involved in a lot of troubles, it is better to keep her distance. Moreover, Chen Lian thinks that Chen Miren probably just wants to play with him. If I were really deceived and apologized, Chen Miren would definitely take advantage of the situation and tell me what was wrong with me, and whether I would dare to do it again in the future. If he falls into the rhythm of Chen Miren, Chen Lian can't guarantee that he will escape unscathed. These are the four beauties. If they can't hold on, they will be finished. Chen Lian refuses to become the number one licking dog. After thinking about it, Chen Lian did not intend to apologize. He leaned back on the chair and changed into a comfortable position, turning to look at the scenery outside the car window. Chen Miren held the steering wheel with both hands, but looked at Chen Lian several times from the corner of her eye, and found that he had no intention of apologizing at all, and she suddenly became angry. What the hell is going on with this man? Why do my own methods fail again and again? Is it true that oil and salt are not included? A deep sense of frustration surrounded Chen Miren, and she began to think about which details she had not handled well. I was waiting for him while driving. Aren't you touched? Or was she angry because she yelled at him when she got in the car? Thinking of this, Chen Miren felt like she had found the reason. Chen Lian didn't have a good impression of herself at first, and she got angry at him, so now she didn't want to talk to her at all. Chen Lian didn't expect that Chen Miren would have so many ideas. The smarter and scheming a person is, the more likely they are to be clever but be misled by their cleverness. If nothing else happens, Chen Miren may soon be able to defeat her because of her clever little mind, without Chen Lian having to do anything. Chen Miren felt that she was riding a tiger now. It was probably impossible to wait for Chen Lian to apologize. It would be too shameful to apologize on her own initiative. Don't think about being tough in front of Chen Lian in the future. If Chen Lian was her boyfriend, Chen Miren would still have a way to deal with him and directly use her trump card to break up. But Chen Lian didn't, and he didn't even like her, which left her helpless. At this moment, Chen Miren understood a truth: if you don't have desires, you will be strong. Be confident. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 48. Chapter 48. Why is it for free again? Seeking for further reading. People in cars are most likely to feel sleepy, and since neither of them spoke, Chen Lian felt like he was about to fall asleep. In order to prevent himself from falling asleep, Chen Lian lowered the car window a little and let the wind blow in to wake him up. In the quiet car, Chen Lian lit a cigarette sleepily. Chen Miren glanced at him, feeling extremely depressed, and she didn't even know she took the initiative to light one. However, seeing the distance to the capital getting closer and closer, Chen Miren couldn't help but speak first. "Where is your house?" Chen Lian turned to look at Chen Miren, and then said, "If you don't go home, go to my friend's place. Just find a place to drop me off at the Third Ring Road." The Third Ring Road has not been repaired these days, so it is no different from the suburbs. After the opening, it was not that difficult to interact again. Chen Miren said nothing and glanced at the cigarette in Chen Lian's hand several times. "If you want to smoke, just say so, don't look around, and drive properly," Chen Lian said speechlessly, feeling that the female driver was quite courageous. Chen Miren smiled and said excitedly, "Then light one for me." Chen Lian glanced at the half-smoked cigarette left on his finger, flicked the ashes and put it to Chen Miren's mouth. "It's the last one, so let's smoke it." Chen Miren was stunned for a moment, and was about to say that there was a cigarette in the co-pilot's glove box, but after taking a look at Chen Lian's long fingers and the tooth marks on the cigarette holder, she opened her mouth and bit the cigarette holder and took a puff. After Chen Miren took a puff, Chen Lian took back his hand and took another puff himself. He had to share half of the cigarette with others. What a sin! Fortunately, she is a girl, otherwise Chen Lian would not let others smoke the cigarettes he smoked. "Even if you don't smoke, you will die." Chen Miren slowly exhaled the smoke from her mouth, and then said, "We'll be there in about an hour. I'll take you there. Where is your friend?" Song Zhuang. After taking a puff, Chen Lian handed the cigarette to Chen Hong's mouth. Chen Miren bit her cigarette holder and took a drag before saying, "Then I'll take you there. By the way, where do you live?" "What are you doing?" Chen Lian glanced at Chen Miren and then said, "You don't want to block me, do you?" Chen Miren was speechless, rolled her eyes and said, "Why should I block you? You must feel guilty too." Chen Lian pursed his lips, and just as he raised his hand to take a sip, Chen Miren immediately shouted, "It's my turn." "You just took a sip." "Yeah. Why do I feel like I'm not smoking?" However, Chen Lian still lowered his eyes to Chen Miren's mouth and watched her take the last sip. Looking at the cigarette that was almost burning to the filter, Chen Lian hesitated and threw away the cigarette butt. "The white pole is gone, why do I want to smoke even more? It's so urgent." Chen Miren saw that Chen Lian was not satisfied, so she raised the corner of her mouth seductively and said, "How about you apologize to me and I give you a cigarette?" This little girl wanted to seduce herself. Chen Lian looked at the glove box in front of him and opened it. As expected, there were 2 packs of cigarettes inside. The car is only so big, and there are only a few places where you can put cigarettes. As long as you know where there are cigarettes, there is no need to apologize to Chen Miren. "Why don't you just start?" "Chen Miren, why is it for free again? This man is here specifically to defeat me." Chen Lian happily opened the cigarette and took a long puff. The unsatisfactory feeling just now was relieved. After looking at the angry Chen Miren, Chen Lian lit another cigarette, put it directly into Chen Miren's mouth and said, "This cigarette is an apology." Chen Miren had a cigarette in her mouth and it was difficult to speak, so she had to swallow the harsh words she had prepared. "As for you, don't be angry, but don't try to use those tricks of yours on me. It's useless," Chen Lian said calmly while smoking a cigarette, which made it clear. Chen Miren held the steering wheel with one hand, took the cigarette out of her mouth, and then pretended to be dumbfounded and said, "What are you talking about? Shouldn't you apologize for bullying me?" Chen Lian smiled, smoked a cigarette and stopped talking. "They are all 1,000-year-old ghosts, let alone chatting." After Chen Miren made a quibble and found that it was useless, she said angrily, "Who told you to mess with me? When did I provoke you?" "Don't slander me," Chen Lian said with a frown. Chen Miren immediately said unhappily, "Did you hug me and touch me last night?" Chen Lian, this is really hard to explain. I was wrong about this, but it was just an accident. Chen Lian took a puff of cigarette irritably, and then said to Chen Myron, let's turn this over. Don't bother with me in the future. I'm not a great director. He is just a small actor, there is no benefit in getting close to me. After Chen Lian finished speaking, the car suddenly became quiet. Chen Myron's eyes were a little red and she bit her lip without speaking. Speaking of this, Chen Myron still doesn't understand how Chen Lian views herself. No wonder she hates herself. This is the root cause. But she couldn't refute such words, saying it was because of love. He wouldn't believe it if he said it. If Chen Myron doesn't believe it herself, how can she convince others? After a while, Chen Myron's eyes became misty. She was indeed more realistic, but was this wrong? Is this why you hate me? You think I'm a real person, right? The cigarette held by Chen Lian's fingers was almost finished. After hearing what Chen Myron said, he stopped beating around the bush. There is nothing wrong with reality and material things. This is the way the circle is. Everyone is like this. It's just that I don't like it. You don't have to care about what I think. We are far apart. We probably won't see each other again in the future. Chen Lian threw away the cigarette in his hand and opened the car window to let the cold wind blow in. He was getting closer and closer to the north, and the temperature had dropped a lot. The sudden influx of cold wind made Chen Lian and Chen Myron shiver, but their minds, which had been a little hot just now, calmed down. Sometimes conflicts can arise when talking in a hurry. If the two of them had arrived in the capital safely, nothing would have happened, and they would have been able to smoke a cigarette together when they saw each other again. However, this situation is probably not possible now. Chen Myron's delicate skin was blown by the cold wind, and the pores shrank, and the emotions originally stimulated by Chen Lian quickly calmed down. After a while, Chen Mei said, "You are right, we are far apart, you are just a little actor. I originally wanted to play with you, but now I am not interested. When we get to the capital, you can get off car." Okay, Chen Lian agreed simply. From the beginning, he was prepared for Chen Myron to abandon him halfway. For the next hour, the two of them never said a word again. They even controlled their breathing, not wanting to make any noise and misunderstand the other party. The car arrived in the capital very quickly. As soon as it entered the capital, the beauty stopped the car on the side of the road. "Get down." Chen Lian unbuckled his seat belt, picked up his backpack from the back seat, looked at Chen Myron, said thank you, and got out of the car. Bang! As soon as the car door closed, Chen Myron stepped on the accelerator and drove away quickly. Just sitting in the car, I couldn't help but look in the rearview mirror, looking at the man who was getting blurry and getting smaller. Chen Lian took out the cigarette he had just taken in Chen Myron's car from his pocket, lit one, looked around, and then became a little confused. Where the hell is this? Have you arrived in the capital? There is no familiar feeling at all. There is still a wasteland around, but there is only one road in front of me, so I can figure out the direction. Chen Lian carried his bag and moved his body, then walked forward slowly. About 10 minutes later, Chen Lian squinted his eyes and looked ahead. A familiar car was driving in his direction. I originally wanted to make the fourth update yesterday, but when I woke up in the morning I found that it was Tuesday and the PK data needed to be looked at, so I couldn't continue to update. The fourth update would affect the follow-up reading. But when it comes to the fourth update, I won't break my promise and will stay up all night tonight. The fourth watch also has to come up. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 49. Chapter 49. The most afraid of seriousness, please read more. The afternoon sun was obscured by the thick clouds that drifted over. The late autumn wind was a bit bleak, raising the dust on the roadside and fascinated Chen Lian. Raising his hand and rubbing his eyes, Chen Lian saw the car clearly and also saw Chen Myron sitting in the driver's seat. The black Toyota Camry is still very eye-catching, and the license plate number is also good. Chen Lian is a little surprised why Chen Myron is back. You can't just be so angry that you want to kill yourself. Chen Myron, who was driving back in the distance, sat in the car and looked at Chen Lian in front of her. She couldn't help but scolded herself. Chen Myron, you are a fool. What are you doing back here? He is not a powerful person, what is the use of finding someone like him? Maybe it's because of my unwillingness, maybe I want to prove that I'm not born that realistic, maybe. Chen Myron didn't know what she was thinking, but she just couldn't control herself. The car quickly drove in front of Chen Lian. Chen Myron rolled down the window and looked at Chen Lian with red eyes. Chen Lian's eyes were also red, and there was moisture in the corners of his eyes. The two of them looked at each other without saying anything, but Chen Lian's squinting eyes and the moisture at the corners of his eyes made the original entanglement and hesitation in Chen Myron's heart disappear instantly. Get in the car. Chen Myron took a deep breath and said calmly. Chen Lian was a little confused and didn't understand what Chen Myron meant, so he stood still and didn't move. Seeing that Chen Lian didn't move, Chen Myron suddenly shouted in her heart as if she was venting her anger, "Get in the car." This shout instantly dispelled all the hesitation and entanglement in Chen Myron's heart. She was not a woman who looked forward and backward. Once she made her decision, she would not regret it. Chen Lian pursed his lips and was a little uncomfortable with Chen Myron's sudden force, but he still opened the door and got in. After getting in the car, Chen Myron immediately changed direction and drove towards the city. It was still so quiet in the car. The two of them had their own thoughts and didn't say anything. It wasn't until the car entered the third ring road and headed towards the second ring road that Chen Lian couldn't help but ask, "Where are you going?" Chen Myron said nothing and just continued to step on the accelerator. At this moment, Chen Myron was still immersed in her own thoughts. Her choices and persistence over the years seemed to have been shattered because of that man's dislike and his dislike of her. Many rumors had spread to her ears, but she never cared. She just wanted to move higher in this circle and become more popular. Chen Myron. Chen Myron is really popular now, but why do I feel unwilling to do so? This is the path I chose. Why do I regret it? After a while, Chen Myron suddenly said, "Light a cigarette for me." Ding, a crisp metallic sound sounded, green smoke floated up, and Chen Lian handed the cigarette to Chen Myron's hand. Chen Myron opened her mouth slightly and said nothing, and her hands were holding onto the steering wheel with no intention of leaving. Chen Lian had no choice but to turn his body sideways and put the cigarette to Myron Cheng's mouth. Chen Myron opened her red lips slightly, bit her cigarette holder and took a puff, then bit Chen Lian's finger before he could take back his hand. A faint bitterness spread from Chen Lian's fingers to Chen Myron's mouth, which was the taste of nicotine, but Chen Myron did not let go, and pressed harder on Chen Lian's fingers, leaving her mark. The pain in his fingers made Chen Lian frown, but he still endured it and didn't question it. He has a short mouth when eating people, and his butt is naturally soft when sitting in a car. Chen Myron took a deep breath, and then blew out all the smoke she had breathed into her lungs. The complicated thoughts in my heart were also thrown out together, and I felt inexplicably relaxed. I hadn't felt this way in a long time. It seems that after entering this circle, I have been tense, wanting everything and thinking about everything. Chen Lian didn't know what Chen Myron was thinking, but he suddenly felt that she became more relaxed. The car soon arrived at the entrance of an alley in Baikan. Chen Myron parked the car and then looked at Chen Lian and said, "Get out of the car." After getting off the car, Chen Myron pulled Chen Lian and walked into the alley. The locust trees beside the alley were covered with light yellow leaves, and occasionally a few fell at the feet of Chen Myron and Chen Lian. Chen Lian looked at Chen Myren, who was walking more and more briskly. He grabbed her hand and asked, "Where are you going?" "I'm thinking about it." Chen Myren suddenly turned around and expressed her purpose with her actions. Chen Lian was caught off guard by the kiss. He stared blankly at Chen Myren. He was stunned for a moment and was about to speak when Chen Myren pulled him and ran into the alley. Chen Lian followed subconsciously. Chen Myren. The breeze brought by the two people's footsteps gently picked up the locust leaves that had just fallen but had not yet fallen to the ground, and swirled them towards the wall. In the second-level courtyard, Chen Myren took Chen Lian's hand and let go. She opened her hand and turned around, looked at Chen Lian with a smile and said, "This is my home, but I haven't been back for a long time." Chen Lian couldn't adapt to the girlish-looking Chen Myren. Without the deliberate scheming and temptation, her bright smiling face was like a locust tree flower in spring. Chen Myren came to Chen Lian with small steps and looked up into his eyes. "Want to stay here for one night?" Chen Lian narrowed his eyes, looked at Chen Myren and said, "Not tonight, and I think you are a little impulsive." The brightness in Chen Myren's eyes dimmed for a moment, but she quickly cheered up and said seriously, "This is not my method, I am serious." "I'm most afraid of being serious," Chen Lian said coldly. "I'm also afraid of being serious. I've never been serious before, but I want to give it a try. If I take it seriously without purpose and without considering the future, it doesn't matter if there are no results." Chen Myren smiled and didn't seem to care. Her thin eyebrows were raised into a nice arc. The bright yellow ginkgo leaves in the yard swayed gently in the breeze, making a rustling sound, as if urging Chen Lian to answer quickly. Chen Lian is really afraid of being serious. Chen Myren is not someone to be crazy with, especially the current Chen Myren. He is afraid that Chen Hong will suddenly tell him one day, "I am pregnant, let's get married." If he wasn't serious, Chen Lian wouldn't mind communicating with Chen Myren, but he was a little unsure of Chen Myren's current thoughts. Chen Lian stepped back, and after a while he said, "I promised my friend to draw her a picture. If it's too late, I'll leave first." Chen Myren looked at Chen Lian's back as he turned away with her hands behind her back. She did not force him to stay or chase him out. She just shouted when Chen Lian was about to walk out of the yard, "I'll wait for you here tonight." Chen Myren stood on tiptoes and spun around under the bright yellow ginkgo tree, then raised the corners of her mouth and smiled softly. A man who is afraid is a good man, because he understands what responsibility is. It may be difficult for you to catch such a person, but once you catch him, he will not run away. Chen Lian, who ran out of Chen Myren's house, was a little uncertain. He stopped a taxi and went to Songchuan. Chen Lian was silent along the way. Even if the driver's secrets from the flood to Jiangguimen were revealed, Chen Lian didn't react at all. Until the car stopped in Songchuan, Chen Lian came to Bai Qing's small yard and looked at the girl sitting at the door basking in the sun, and his heart suddenly became quiet. Bai Qing turned around and saw Chen Lian, stood up and walked over, stretched out her hand and caressed his brow, and a crisp voice rang in his ears. "It doesn't look good. I like the way you smile. When you see me in the future, you must smile." Fringe artists in the entertainment industry. Author, Chizu de Xiaomao. Chapter 50. Chapter 50. What are you afraid of? Just stride forward. Seeking for further reading. The sunshine is as gentle as a pair of warm hands, shining warmly on your body. In Bai Qing's room, the yellow and mottled newspapers on the wall were replaced with new ones at some point. The originally messy room was now tidy, and there was no longer such a strong smell of turpentine in the air. In 2 months, Bai Qing had changed a lot. The hollowness and laziness in his body had disappeared, and a vivid aura slowly appeared in his eyes. Bai Qing sat on the bed sheet printed with floral patterns, blinking and staring at Chen Lian, as if trying to match the face in front of him with the face in his memory. After not seeing each other for more than 2 months, Chen Lian has changed a lot. He is not as gloomy as when they met, but he has not become brighter either. Bai Qing feels that Chen Lian now has no energy. Can you still draw? Bo Qing raised his arm, as white and tender as a lotus joint, and waved it in front of Chen Lian. Chen Lian hummed, and then said, I want to take a nap, and I will draw for you when I wake up. Well, come on. Bo Qing chuckled and patted his thigh. Chen Lian walked over and laid his pillow on Bai Qing's lap. It felt so soft and reassuring. Chen Lian closed his eyes and slowly fell asleep. In Chen Lian's sleep, many people appeared in his mind. One was Mr. Zhou, the other was Gong Li, the other was Ma Xiaoqing, and the other was Cheng Miren. Only Bai Qing did not appear, perhaps because Bai Qing was around. Bai Qing looked at Chen Lian, who was sleeping, and gently rubbed his brow with his white fingers, as if trying to dissolve the sadness in his heart. As time went by, the light in the room became darker and darker, and Bai Qing kept maintaining this position, allowing Chen Lian to sleep peacefully. I don't know how long it took before Chen Lian opened his eyes and saw Bai Qing's bright eyes looking at him in the darkness. Chen Lian rubbed Bai Qing's leg lustfully and said, I haven't slept so comfortably for a long time. Seeing the comfort and relaxation on Chen Lian's face, Bai Qing smiled, then pinched Chen Lian's nose and said, if you're asleep, get up quickly. My legs are numb. It's so comfortable. Just let me lie down for a while, just 5 minutes. Chen Lian put his arms around Bai Qing's waist, acting childishly. This was the first time that Bai Qing saw Chen Lian like this. He couldn't help but chuckle and rubbed Chen Lian's hair and said, it's only for 5 minutes, no more cheating. Yeah, 5 minutes. Chen Lian closed his eyes and smelled the fragrance of washing powder and turpentine on Bai Qing's body. His heart felt like it was being emptied and washed, and it was particularly peaceful. 5 minutes passed quickly, and Chen Lian felt as if only a moment had passed, but he did not lie about getting up when the 5 minutes were up. Bai Qing rubbed his numb legs, looked at the energetic Chen Lian and said angrily, come here and rub your legs for me. Yes. Chen Lian sat next to Bai Qing and kneaded Bai Qing's tight long legs with his long and strong fingers. After a while, hiss, be gentle. Didn't you like me very much before? We haven't seen each other for more than 2 months, okay? Under the dim light, Chen Lian looked at the painting on the canvas and seemed to be able to feel the purity and faint lazy comfort of Bai Qing. In the painting, Bai Qing is leaning lazily on the edge of the bed, like a baby who has just finished drinking milk, with a sleepy look in his beautiful eyes as if he is full and wants to sleep. But there is an indescribable desire and emptiness between the eyebrows, a particularly contradictory feeling, like waking up and recalling the gorgeous dream just now. There were a pile of empty paint bottles in front of Chen Lian, and the shovel in his hand was still hung with thick paint. The painting on the canvas is also thickly coated with paint. The picture painted with this thick coating technique is more textured and more three-dimensional. The most important thing is that this painting method can be painted faster and there is no need to wait for the paint to dry. How's the painting? Bo Qing couldn't help raising his hand and yawning, a tear falling from the corner of his eye. Chen Lian's eyes immediately lit up. He used a small brush to pick up a little white paint and mix it with oil and then sprinkled it on the painting. With this teardrop, the whole picture seems to come alive and has its own theme. Bai Qing looked at the excitement in Chen Lian's eyes, as if he saw himself that day, and was very curious about how Chen Lian painted. All right. All right. Bai Qing immediately ran to the easel and looked at it carefully. After a while, he said with some jealousy, Chen Lian, you are really a genius. It's only been half a year. You should really concentrate on painting. You will definitely become the most powerful painter in the future. Chen Lian threw away the brush in his hand. The excitement in his eyes had not subsided. He looked at his work and said excitedly, what do you think it should be called? I don't know. Bo Qing shook his head and looked at the painting and said, it gives me a very complicated feeling. It's both pure and hot, but also like the calmness after the desire is satisfied. Chen Lian touched his chin and thought about what name he should give this work. He didn't notice at all that the paint on his fingertips rubbed against his sexy chin. At this moment, Chen Lian felt that his brain was exhausted and he couldn't think of a suitable word to name it. He said with some enthusiasm, "I don't know what to call it better, you decide." Bai Qing hummed and looked at the gradually brightening sky outside the window. After a long time, he said, "Wake up, I feel like I was in a dream after meeting you." Chen Lian smiled, looked at Bai Qing and said, "I hope it's a sweet dream. But now I'm about to wake up from my dream." Bai Qing pulled back her hair and looked at the room that had been packed up. She turned to look at Chen Lian and said, "I'm moving away and saying goodbye to this place." Chen Lian was silent for a while and asked, "Where are you going?" Bai Qing chuckled and said playfully, "I'll tell you next time I see you, but I want to take this painting of yours to an exhibition. I shouldn't be the only one to see such a good painting." Chen Lian doesn't know when the next time will be, nor does he know where Bai Qing will take this painting for exhibition. When leaving Bai Qing's yard, he looked at the rising sun and couldn't help but quicken his pace, as if he was actively facing the rising sun. Isn't the theme of life just meeting and separation? It would be nice to have seen some scenery before and owned it. Just like Mr. Zhou or Gong Li, they are all beautiful scenery in the journey of life. Why do you think so much? Just cherish the present. When Chen Lian first came out of the alley, a fried dough stick stall had already been set up, and a few sleepy-eyed customers were queuing up. Everyone is busy with their new lives, so there is no time to dwell on the past. Chen Lian bought 2 fried dough sticks, chewed them and walked towards Chen Mei's house. "I was running so fast yesterday that I left my bag at her place." The gate to the yard with the ginkgo tree was not closed. When Chen Lian pushed the door open and walked in, he saw Chen Miren wearing casual sportswear exercising under the tree. The white sportswear showed off Chen Miren's figure well, and her high ponytail danced gently in the sun. After seeing Chen Lian coming back, Chen Miren stood under the tree with her hands folded and said with a bright smile, "I knew you would come back." "Because I left my bag here," Chen Lian said very uncharacteristically. "Nothing else but the bag. Does it count if there's a girl who wants to sleep but doesn't dare? Calculate. It's the 3rd watch, and the 1st watch is a little later. I'm going to eat first, I'm starving." "Everyone should eat well, otherwise you won't have enough energy at night."